I'm Morrissey, editor-in-chief of DigiDay, and joined for a little lunch and learn by Eric Franchi, who is co-founder of Undertone Networks, one of the, I guess, largest ad networks online.
Sure.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about sort of the state of the ad landscape, where display is going, and also sort of the future of what the modern ad network looks like. So we hear a lot of things about ad networks and about DSPs and the ad exchange world. So Eric, let's start a little bit about sort of a state of the state.
Sure.
I think we were talking earlier, something like, a trillion ads being shown.
1.1 trillion display ads in Q1.
Okay.
Comscore.
So, I mean, the internet has always had this this problem, I think, at least from a publisher standpoint, since I'm on that side, of supply outstripping demand, and it seems like that this has gone like off the rails recently.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because of all of these new avenues for monetization, right? It was first publisher direct sales force, and then there's more ads, and a network can help monetize, and then from there is exchanges and DSPs. We're having a bit of a compounding effect in terms of the scale, and I think it's starting to have an effect and has had an effect for some times in terms of just eCPMs that a publisher can realize at the end of the day, revenue, the ability to have something differentiated in the marketplace. So I think, this abundance of display is top of mind. I think a lot of us are thinking about it. And
what is the answer? I mean, is it stripping out ads? I mean, do publishers have to take inventory off the market to some degree?
I don't know if it's necessarily taking inventory out of the market or off the market, to use your term, because the reality is publishers, direct sales force, they do a great job of monetizing things on a direct basis, but that only accounts for a percentage, right, of the ultimate inventory pie. I'm talking about perhaps on the marketer side. Having a more critical eye of what you're buying, right? With a lot of these different strategies, the programmatic buying, the RTB, there's been lots of things going around in terms of what type of inventory that's getting the marketer at the end of the day, and it's bottom of the page. It's the reintroduction of cookie bombing, because there's new ways to bomb and drive those DR metrics. So I think it's a little bit starting with the marketer rather than the publisher.
I mean, is that what we're seeing? I mean, we've seen the sort of weight shift, and I guess it's always sort of been this way online. I mean, the power has always been sort of on the buy side.
Yeah.
And we're seeing now the ability of the buy side to separate the data from the media impression, and to, I remember talking to publishers and hearing, we're in a situation now where the person buying ads knows more about my audience than I know about my audience. I mean, is that what you're seeing going on out there?
That's the way it's been for some time, and that could be said for definitely the buy side and perhaps those that sit in the middle. There's been a lot more innovation on the publisher side, which I think is a very positive thing, because at the end of the day, their data is what's being used to help drive a lot of those campaign metrics. So there should be ways for them to leverage it, just like marketers can leverage it.
So let's talk about where the ad network sits in this. So ad networks have been around since the beginning of internet advertising, I feel like.
Yeah,
almost. I mean, there was rep networks, and then there was arbitrage networks.
Yeah. Who was the first ad network?
I didn't know this would be a quiz.
DoubleClick.
Yeah, I mean, DoubleClick was. Yeah, if you think about it. I mean, they ended up getting out of that business.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Anyway, but they've been around for forever.
Yeah.
And then we got to this point where something kind of interesting happened, where we had both the people on the buy side and the sell side pointing their fingers at ad networks. And the ad networks sort of became the boogeyman of online advertising.
Yeah.
The buy side, the agency said they're stripping out too much margin. The publisher said they're stripping out data and, just, giving us, pennies. First, do you think the criticism of ad networks was fair?
Interesting question. So I think there's lots of ad networks with fantastic businesses that add value on both sides of the equation, both on the publisher and advertiser side. If we think about from the historical perspective, and I'm not talking about going back to the DoubleClick days, but during that boom of, call it 2004, 2005 to 2007, where literally every single day, new network, new network. The boom happened because of the low barriers to entry, the fact that so much more money was being put into these efficiency type of strategies, and all of a sudden, I mean, every day you had a new network, and it wasn't too difficult to just start a network and get some budget. So those that were in it for the short term, in it to make a buck, not necessarily in it to build a sustainable business, a lot of those guys did some things that cast a negative light on the entire category. And I think a lot of the negative stigmas you hear about networks is because of the actions of unfortunately a few bad players,
sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So I think then we ended up seeing billions of dollars going into the what I sort of shorthand refer to the Terry Kawaja slide, and this shift to programmatic buying, which I think definitely from the buy side they got really, really excited about it. And a lot of times I heard their excitement being, we can cut out the ad networks. What do you think? I mean, how important is what's happening when we're talking about programmatic buying, ad exchanges, real-time bidding, that world?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's growing. This might be controversial for the audience. I don't know if it's if the actual revenue and the actual impressions and what's going into it necessarily matches the amount of press.
Right? I'm fairly certain it doesn't.
Yeah, but absolutely, and I think there's absolute value there, and I think using
but something $4 billion. I mean, that's a huge bet.
Yeah,
huge bet on this.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of inventory that's being made available within the exchanges. And the ability to leverage that for the buyer is very, very powerful. So your question, how does that affect the ad network?
Well, I mean, let's say if I typed in Google, although I hate these sort of things, like ad network is dead, ad network dying or something like this, I would probably get 60,000 results.
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's sort of the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, there are lots of companies that call themselves networks, have an ad network-like model. What they're doing, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you have a unique value proposition, is they're just buying inventory across exchanges, not adding a lot of value, and then just doing deals, right? And I think those guys are quickly becoming exposed. I think they, if they're not already having challenges with their business, and I think this is the year where you're going to see an inflection point of those businesses having challenges, they're going to, because at the end of the day, buyers are getting very smart. You're seeing more occurrences of, hey, if you're buying inventory across exchanges, hey, Mr. Ad Network, if you're buying inventory across exchanges, we're getting that via our trading desk. We don't want it. Bring us something unique. Bring us something differentiated. So ad networks that are bringing something unique, differentiated, whether it's inventory, whether it's formats, products, whatever it is, those are the ones that are probably going to be bigger players in the future.
Yeah. So all different. I mean, what does the modern ad network look like, and how is it different from back? Ad Network 1.0.
Sure. Ad Network 1.0 was a representation model, right? It was very publisher centric. This is talking about the days where it's very easy to start up a website, not necessarily hire salespeople. There were outsourced firms that did that. Ad Network 2.0 was the emergence of those that took a position, right? The ones that bought inventory from the publisher.
Arbitragers.
Yeah, you can call it that. You can call it what you want, and then ultimately had a different model. And I think that's the one that when it's just buying inventory across exchanges and marking it up, there's not a ton of value in that. There's a lot of value in agencies getting that stuff directly, right? And being able to not only buy it in an efficient manner, but use data, have a lot of transparency. So I think the ad network of tomorrow is bringing something unique to the table.
So you see sort of a world in which the commoditized low-level buys, the sort of heavy lifting, let's face it, there's 1 trillion impressions out there. There's a lot of ads that are going to be trafficked.
Yeah.
A lot of that will be done server to server, trading desk using DSPs and the like in order to mine inventory. So
$4 billion is betting on it.
Yeah. So you'd have to think that's going to happen. So the ad network would operate where exactly? I mean, the ad network is basically an alternative to going direct to publishers for higher value buys.
Yeah, that's one way it can be done. That can be done via the same way you transact with a publisher, or a lot of networks and a lot of publishers are developing technology that can be done in a programmatic fashion as well. So embrace the whole concept of the trading desk and programmatic buying, but not necessarily just be bringing the same inventory to the table. So you can see some growth there.
So unique inventory, unique formats.
Yep.
A variety of different formats, video and the like.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of investment. There's a lot of folks, Undertone included, that are pushing fast into video. A lot of what we're thinking about with display, we think about the fact that there's 1.1 trillion ads out there, right? How many you personally remember, right? How many do I remember from the 3,000 or so if you work out the numbers that you saw last month? So we think that there's incredible potential to do stuff different with display, right? If you take the collages slide, we've done this. We have a shorthanded version of this, and you wipe it out, and you basically cast it upon a marketing funnel. You've got your awareness, consideration, intent. All of that $4 billion, or the majority, is right at the bottom, right? We're not seeing
all DR, mostly.
Yeah, all
harvesting demand.
Yeah, all to drive all of those lower funnel metrics. And there's a ton of opportunity there. There's nothing wrong with it. We see a lack of innovation, a lack of investment at the top. And I think...
so you guys want to go back up to the top.
Absolutely. And that's what we're focused right now. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is sort of a side issue, but, I haven't covered this industry for a while. And it seems like, everyone, like from the day I started, like everyone just complains about the click rate. Being held to the click rate.
Yeah.
What is going to sort of wean, marketers, or more specifically probably their agencies, which might, say one thing, but then, when it comes down to it, they're like, what's the click rate? What's going to wean the industry off that?
It's unfortunately I don't have a groundbreaking answer for you, because the truth truly is attribution. Right? It's being able to...
attribution models.
Yeah, attribution models I think is very important. And then at the end of the day, even before we get there, right, there's a ton to do with research and insights right now. Right? There's a ton to do to measure all of the touch points, to look at the brand metrics that can be reported on, and start to dig into that. But I think at the end of the day, attribution is what gets us there.
So what do you think is the top, maybe 3 things that are holding back brands from devoting a larger share of their budgets to the internet? I mean, we always see that sort of, I think after the Terry slide, the number 2 most famous slide is sort of the time spent versus budget spent slide.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I wrote a thing about it. I think it's kind of misleading, but clearly there's a big gap there.
Yeah,
I mean, what is going to close that?
So I don't know if it necessarily will ever be closed. Right, so we're talking about absolutes closing that gap. I think with the nature of the always-on user, the variety of ways to consume media, I think that the future is absolutely different. But we can absolutely close that gap. So I think the 3 things to answer your question directly are more research and insights that proves out the value of online, better ad formats, which we think are really, really important. Being able to invoke a lot of what you get from a TV commercial or a high quality print ad, adjacent to really good content online. And we think it can be done. And then number 3, being sure to be able to do it in a brand safe environment. Because those 1.1 trillion display ads that are running on millions of sites, most of which I don't know if a marketer would necessarily want to be adjacent to. There's lots of bad stuff. Then there's lots of stuff that's just not good. Right, so it's really being able to get that stuff out.
Right. So the final thing I want to talk about, because you brought it up, was sort of the banner ad. I mean, what is the future? I mean, I think the banner is now 11 years? No, it's like 15 years old.
Yeah.
15 years old, and I don't know. A lot of people are disillusioned with the banner. I feel like when it comes to talking about moving brand budgets online, I end up hearing, let's just skip over that. We'll go to online video in stream. That's where it's going to be. First, I mean, why is the banner savable as a workhorse format?
Yeah,
is it just because there's so many of them?
I absolutely think it's savable. I think from your perspective, there's a lot of them because it's standardized, and I think that's a positive thing for a marketer that wants to deploy significant dollars. It's got to be standardized. I think there could be more done from the standpoint of making the banner a lot more engaging. Right? I think a lot of the rich media companies are doing really positive things. I think being able to leverage that banner to be more functional, right? To be able to drive social activation, to be able to do things within the banner space, the potential is very significant. So I think making the banner better should be top of mind for everybody that's doing this on all sides of the equation.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we're out of time, but thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate
Thank you, Brian.
coming in and chatting today.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks.